I just finished reading 2 books about Jack Welch. These two! Winning by Fortune magazine's Manager of the Century, Jack Welch. Jack Welch was the CEO of General Electric from 1981 to 2001, and was wildly successful in that role. Winning is his attempt to concentrate and share all the wisdom he accumulated over that time. It's a surprisingly engaging read from a charismatic man, for the first 4 chapters. As a whole, it's a self-help book for aspiring managers who've never read anything else on the subject. It can pump you up in small doses, it probably even changed some people's lives for the better. But it's not exceptional. It's not even good. I almost didn't finish it. It's too uninspired. Welch has some great philosophy, but he rarely makes any conclusions, ending most chapters instead by finding new ways to say, real life's complicated, you'll need to figure it out for yourself. That's why I call this book self-help. Welch delivers anecdotes of times his ideas worked and then says, "Go get 'em, Tiger." Results may vary. Welch writes like a motivational speaker, and he got me excited to be a great manager. In the opening chapters of the book, Jack recounts the importance of forming strong company values and maintaining candor. More on that word later. In all business relationships. This struck me as good advice, and sometimes the obvious does need to be stated out loud. My interest in the book waned sharply after that. Everything Welch has to say in this 2005 book has been drilled into management students and the public zeitgeist since the 1980s. Welch was a superstar CEO from the beginning of his tenure in 1981, and he remained a superstar well past his 2001 retirement. If you've followed business at all in the last 40 years, you've already heard everything Jack has to say in Winning, and it's gotten boring. Welch's practices have come into significant questions in the years following his retirement. In no small part because GE's value has plummeted since his tenure, and the company is in the process of breaking up. The blame for derailing this 100-year-old company, founded by none other than Thomas Edison, can be traced back in time to Jack Welch. That's the argument made in 2022's The Man Who Broke Capitalism by David Gellis. We'll get back to Gellis's book in a moment. This dual book review starts with Winning by the man who reigned over Thomas Edison's company. Edison, a man who only used ethical, noble practices such as murdering an elephant and selling the footages as fancy new kinetoscopes. Eef. Maybe this critique is unfair, and I would have felt differently about Winning if I'd read it when it came out, but I didn't, and I can only tell you what I thought about this book reading it now. The audiobook helped me get through to the end. Jack's charisma and high-pitched Boston accent turned the motivational aspects up to 11. Like Ben Affleck's backhanded pep talk at the end of Good Will Hunting. If that's what you're after, or if you just need a primer on business ideas from the 1990s, then buy Winning on audiobook and get pumped on those business vibes. The Man Who Broke Capitalism by David Gellis. David Gellis hates Jack Welch. He proposes that Jack Welch is responsible for all the worst habits our global corporations have gotten addicted to over the last 40 years. Outsourcing, downsizing, constant acquisitions, and creative accounting, to name 4. And you know what? He makes a convincing argument. It's not all negative, though. Gellis admits that Welch had boundless energy and inspired others to work ceaselessly. Remember that I said Winning reads like a self-help book by a charismatic Bostonian? That was Jack's strength as a manager. He could inspire others to get the job done. What more could you want in a manager? I'll tell you. Someone who doesn't use the word candor as a euphemism for furious shouting. Someone who won't rip out the heart of your company and replace it with risky loans and shady accounting practices. Someone who won't fire legions of employees with no thought to the long-term consequences. You can and should ask for that from a manager. According to The Man Who Broke Capitalism, Jack Welch not only did these things and, according to Gellis, legitimized Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Weird that he brought that up. He shouted their praises from the rooftop. Loyalty to your employees, loyalty to your home country, and even basic decency were out. Loyalty to shareholders was the new vogue, and Jack Welch dominated the runway. He was a cheerleader for a new, monolithic focus on shareholder returns. Jack loved the spotlight, and he was easy to listen to. He even revamped GE's internal management training center in Crotonville, New York in his own image, eventually releasing his protégés on other businesses. Some of those proteges carried Welch's laser focus on short-term revenue to their new employers, with often disappointing and sometimes even fatal consequences. Look up the 2019 worldwide grounding of the Boeing 737 MAX for more information on the fatalities. 20 years of firing every possible employee, acquiring every business and firing their employees, and using the ever-expanding GE Capital, an unregulated bank, to pull in money quickly in the final days of each quarter left GE strained. There was no way the behemoth could keep growing. Welch's successor, Jeff Immelt, would find that out quickly. Immelt tried to keep the momentum going, but his acquisitions never moved GE's stock price enough, and GE Capital's investments kept getting riskier to make up for that. The risks grew until GE became a key player in the subprime mortgage crisis of 2007 and 2008. GE needed a bailout from Uncle Sam in the excess of $100 billion to stay afloat when all of its risky investments finally caught up with the company. That is a way better story than any anecdote you'll find in Winning, and David Gellis tells it beautifully. The Man Who Broke Capitalism was easy for me to read. I could hardly put it down. To cap it off, Gellis includes tips for the future and ways to break free from the shadow of Jack Welch. The key is, businesses need to think beyond next quarter's dividend and need to consider all of their stakeholders, the employees, the communities that they operate in, and their customers. You may say this is utopian thinking. No. The middle class in America has been beaten down and down and down by Welch and those like him, and there's no future in Welchian thinking. That's what David Gellis tells us. The Man Who Broke Capitalism hugely colored the way I think about Jack Welch's book Winning. I read Winning first, and I wanted to put it down into the did not finish pile well before I reached the halfway point. And I probably should have. If I'd read The Man Who Broke Capitalism first, I may have never read Winning at all. Actually, I'm glad I read both. I got to hear Welch's idea with a fresh mind and write down my initial thoughts before they were tainted. The two books go together well, one as a commentary on the other. The lesson from these books as a pair is that it's time to stop trying to emulate Jack Welch's successes, and it's time to start learning from Jack Welch's mistakes. Thanks for watching my video. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other books you want me to review.